Hello, everyone. It's so lovely to see so many of you here today at SREcon. Thank you so much for joining. We're incredibly excited and super thrilled to be here. BT is actually based in the UK, so being accepted to speak at this international conference at SREcon is super exciting for all of us. I'm one of your speakers today. My name is Pauline Narvas, and our talk will be hopefully answering the question, how do you go from nothing at all to an effective and useful SRE team for a company with over 100,000 employees and millions of customers? So we've been implementing SRE principles and values and building up an SRE team at a large enterprise for the last few months now, since March. This activity has actually proven to be quite difficult and quite challenging. So it actually turns out that creating an SRE team is much more complex than just copying what Google has done or renaming an existing team. So today we will be sharing our journey of building our SRE team, the main challenges we've faced in such a large enterprise, and some reflections of what we learned along the way, and advice to newly formed SRE teams. Today, you will hear from the SRE team here at BT. We have Graeme, Wayne, Anand, Amreen, Shiv, and myself speaking to you about our experiences of starting this team from scratch at an established enterprise. I also just wanted to mention that most of us, this is our first time speaking at a conference. We're not like professional speakers or anything like that. We're actually a team of engineers. So yeah, just wanted to mention that we are really excited to be here to share our story with you. So I just wanted to give you a bit of background on BT, just in case you're unfamiliar with what we do. So we're a British telecommunications company based here in the UK. We have operations around 180 countries, and we're the largest provider of fixed line, broadband, and mobile services. We also provide subscriptions for TV and IT services. Our sole purpose is to connect for good, and our ambition is to become the world's most trusted connector of people, devices, and machines. So that's what BT is in a nutshell, and you can see our purpose, goal, and strategy here on the screen right now. It's such an exciting industry to be a part of. So we'll move on. What does SRE look like here at BT? I'm going to pass you on to Wayne, who'll tell us a bit more about how we're currently set up.
Thank you, Pauline. And hello, everyone. My name is Wayne Bridgman, and it's really great to be able to share our experiences with you all today. I've been working in cloud transformation and automation projects for around 15 years now, but it was only quite recently that I had the honour of being introduced to the wonderful world of site reliability engineering. And SRE really exploded onto the scene for us at BT, actually. I was sitting at my desk one day, minding my own business, when our digital engineering director asked a seemingly casual and innocent question. That question was, have you ever heard of SRE? Well, I'd read about the basic concepts and heard a few references in conferences and such, so I was familiar with many of the concepts and benefits. And after discussing some of those potential benefits for a short period of time, our senior management basically concluded we should do all of the SRE things. Our company's seen quite a meteoric transition, really, from on-prem infrastructure to cloud infrastructure, and new services are coming online all the time. So as someone working in cloud infrastructure provisioning, this new demand to start an SRE function was really great, actually, and timely news for us. And it was a considerable bonus, actually, that we had top-down backing from day one. That is incredibly important, and it's something we'll elaborate on a little bit later in this presentation with my colleagues. So where do we start? Where on earth should we start with this endeavour? We have no team, there's no spare resources, there's no budget. We've got dozens of burgeoning cloud accounts to support. We have an army of developers eager to experiment with cloud solutions. So we had to decide how an SRE squad could add value quickly, and we had to devise some standards that would allow developers to work at pace in the cloud, but safely and cost efficiently. So firstly, we felt it was very important to define what SRE meant to us and identify the problems we wanted it to help us address in our organisation. And I'm sure some of you will know, as its sibling term, DevOps, the definition of site reliability engineering can become a little pliable, depending on who you ask. And while, as we all know, Google literally wrote the book on SRE, we felt it should not be viewed as a Bible necessarily, and SRE practices must be specific to an organisation, because SRE is really not a one-size-fits-all discipline, and we wanted it to be intimately aligned to our ways of working and the systems that we were building. That said, we did not want to lose sight of some of the more traditional SRE practices, of the key pillars, eliminating toil, SLOs and SLAs, etc. So we split our roadmap into two paths. The first path was concerned with getting our cloud house in order, so to speak, and the second track was more focused on moving towards those traditional SRE measurements of success, and we'll hear a bit more about that from my colleagues later in this presentation. So, as I mentioned before, our organisation's transformation from on-prem to the cloud happened quite quickly and is continuing to grow at a healthy pace. But this success did bring some key challenges to the infrastructure squads that were tasked with supporting those cloud environments. I'm sure you'll be familiar with a lot of these challenges. We've got things like cloud sprawl. So we had to provide teams with the ability to self-serve their own environments. And that drastically improved delivery times, of course, but sometimes the housekeeping was a little bit slack. We found, for example, some development teams were not too great at tidying up their own room, so to speak, and needed a little bit of help right-sizing their environments and cleaning up unused resources, that sort of thing. Of course, security is the biggie. We want our developers to be free to experiment in the cloud without fear of accidentally introducing a security breach. Some of our developers are still a bit green around the grills with some cloud infrastructure. We're all learning together. So we needed to support them and sort of build their confidence by providing automated safeguards within the environment. For example, if a port's open to the internet by mistake, you'll probably have a bot sniffing around it in quite short order. So we need to protect from that. And cost optimization was a big one for us too. It's related to the cloud sprawl problem, of course, this one. And we had to automate methods to ensure that unused components were not sitting around idling away, costing us money unnecessarily. Another big challenge for us was that we had to break down those sort of indoctrinated processes. Have any of you out there ever asked a team why they're using a particular process, only to be presented with the answer, well, we've always done it this way? That can certainly be a problem in an enterprise, and sometimes support teams can get into the habit of manually fixing known problems. That was something we wanted to put a stop to with the transition from on-prem to the cloud. And really, we lacked a team that had the responsibility for addressing all these sorts of challenges across all of our digital squads, which is great, really, because that means we had a ready-made hole for the SRE team to plug. So many cloud accounts, so little time and people. We had and still do have a large number of cloud accounts that were to fall within the remit of the SRE team. So we needed to construct a consistent approach that would be easy for development squads to understand and to relate to. We knew we'd have a very small team, certainly initially, so automation and observability would be key factors in ensuring that we achieved the coverage that we needed. And other challenges we faced included things like how could we start to trim down some of the on-prem inherited and well-established manual processes that I just mentioned? How could we ensure disaster recovery was consistently given the attention it deserved in an ever-growing and ever more complex environment? And where should we start pushing to strengthen some of our more delicate systems, say, that had been migrated into the cloud? You know, the sort of thing, maybe it was put live 4 or 5 years ago, and you've got a small team of expert support staff that know it intimately and know which buttons to press when it falls over. We wanted things to be self-healing and not subject to that sort of delicate tag. So we'll walk through the solution to some of these key challenges in more detail during our presentation, and I'll pass you on to Graeme, who will kick us off.
Great, thanks Wayne, and thank you all for allowing us to speak at the conference today. So Wayne's explained a little about the problem, but where do we start? So firstly, we've got no team, we've got no SRE engineers, so we needed to put those foundations in place. So firstly, we needed an SRE advocate, and we have that in Wayne. Someone to champion the cause of SRE, to guide and educate, share knowledge and provide immediate credibility during the team's startup phase. We needed to show we weren't just messing about. We needed some engineers. We wanted a single SRE team, empowered and with freedom to define our team and our role. External recruitment was off the table, so we pulled in some of our best engineers from across a number of squads: environments and governance, L2 support, the graduate program, platform services and capacity management, all bringing something different to the team. Nobody knew everything, but combined it provided the skills, knowledge and business awareness we needed to get started. Next came the education. We knew that we didn't know everything about SRE, and we needed to learn quickly. We needed to ensure we had time to educate ourselves whilst also applying what we've learned as quickly as possible. We needed to share resources and guide each other as we went. We needed to look at tools and automation. We need to find the best ways to solve our problems with minimal effort whilst being really conscious of cost versus reward. It was important to try and get these foundations right. We needed to define and agree a roadmap. Our objectives, our measures, our principles for success would be the tangible evidence that we were winning, and the investment in the time and effort was absolutely worthwhile. And then we needed to understand a little bit about the long term and our future, our plan to evolve SRE vertically across engineering squads and further embed the knowledge and behaviours within the engineering community. And more on that later from Pauline. And then finally from me, management buy-in is great, but it creates its own pressures. We needed to succeed, but we needed to be realistic. This is all new to us, and it's not going to be an easy ride. Nothing is ever simple. So, with that said, I'll hand you over to Shiv to talk you through our plan.
Thanks, Grant. So, yeah, challenges. So now that we have got a team formed, we need to plan our key goals and objectives for the year ahead. The second challenge in this case was starting from scratch. And where do we begin with? So the solution. As Wayne mentioned earlier, we were lucky to have had support and backing from our leadership team from the very beginning. This helped massively, not only when it came to areas we wanted to prioritize, but also when establishing ourselves across the engineering department as well as other areas of the business. Okay. And what are our goals? So coming to the goals, faster rollout of new features and bug fixes while maintaining the high availability and reliability, and reduction of risk through the best practices and the automation, and reduced technical complexity, cloud sprawl, and associated costs, alignment of development and operations through shared goals. These made the backbone of our roadmap and the backlog. So, coming to our principles are: if an existing process cannot be automated, it must be redesigned and replaced. If a proposed process cannot be automated, it will be rejected. And coming to the disposal infrastructure, servers are disposable and treated like cattle. Servers live in auto-scaling group that self-heal themselves whenever an issue happens, and servers are provisioned from images that are fully equipped and operational, so that we don't need to do any post provisioning, and tinkering is not allowed. Application servers are stateless. And coming to continuous integration, all code changes are made in the Git via pull requests, verified and approved. Yeah. And functional test runs on every deploy, preventing rollback deploys when the build fails. And continuous deployment, the another part of the continuous integration. Deploys do not require any human interaction other than to instigate them. Deploy time matters, and engineers should strive to make it faster. Rollbacks happen automatically when a failed deploy is detected. It is easy to tell when commit is deployed. Okay. And monitoring and alerting. All systems are monitored for the critical 4 golden signals metrics: latency, traffic, error rate, and saturation. Metrics are easily available and consumable in a single interface. Now, security. Security is automated and backed into baked into everything. Security checks are run as part of CI/CD. Intrusion detection systems are in place. A few infrastructure components are, as possible, are publicly accessible, ideally zero. Okay. All of which are encompassed in our cloud computing standards, which Amreen will tell about in a bit. Over to you, Pauline.
Thanks for that, Shiv. So I'll talk you through the different phases that we have planned and where we're currently at as a team. So we approach the deployment of SRE in our engineering teams in 2 ways. We have our first phase and our second phase. Our first phase is focused more on a horizontal deployment of SRE across the organization. Essentially, it is a centralized SRE team that act as a shared service for the whole organization. In this phase, the team will identify and work on continuous improvement in our cloud environments. For example, proactively aligning best practices in the cloud and automating recovery and failover for our cloud-based applications. So this is more focusing on how we're currently set up and tidying up our cloud accounts as much as we can. Phase 2 is the vertical deployment of SREs across squads. So this is where SREs will be embedded as team members into tribes for the duration of a new feature development or migration, and will be expected to contribute to the overall product reliability, design, and implementation. In addition to this, we'll be shifting to more of a traditional SRE model with a focus on production. So from these two, we are currently in phase 1, as we are still trying to find our feet in organizing ourselves. In the effort to continuously move ourselves forwards towards that next phase, we came together and ran a maturity report on ourselves. This is an activity we will continue to be doing over the next year, and we'll be getting together every 6 months to review where we're at right now. And so the findings that are generated in this report will help shape and provide input in our roadmap, but also just shape the team in general. So what we did was we created ourselves a scoring system as part of our SRE maturity report. Our goal is to climb up the levels towards that level 5 elite SRE maturity. And during the self-reflection exercise, we actually split up BT specific activities and traditional SRE activities and gave ourselves a rating based on where we thought we were at that moment in time. With 1 meaning not performed or planned, 2 the inception phase, 3 active/manual steps, 4 active/automated, so things have started to be automated, and 5, which is the more like continuous improvement stage. And as you can see, we gave ourselves a BT score of 16 and a traditional SRE score of 11. Our first maturity report set us on a level 2, which is, as you can see from our little pyramid, this is level 2, the developing stage, which was actually within our expectations because we just started the team in March of 2020 this year. So we are still like developing ourselves, and this report has proven to help us sort of understand where we're at, and it was that honest self-reflection that we really needed to make sure that we move towards the right direction. So our rigorous planning and organizing really helped keep us stay focused. There's actually this famous quote, "If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail," which actually rings true in this case and is the reason we developed the SRE maturity report in the first place. Off the back of this report, we set ourselves some action points that have made it onto our roadmap, and bit by bit, we're progressing to showcase to the rest of the business how much value SRE can truly have. One of our key actions that we mentioned was aligning best practice in our cloud to reduce that cloud sprawl that we keep talking about. I'll pass you on to Amreen, who can tell us a bit more about how we tackle that challenge.
Thanks, Pauline. The challenge cloud sprawl. At BT, we have quite a few cloud accounts. A clear set of overarching standards had never really existed across these accounts. And this led to a dreaded cloud sprawl and an inconsistent approach to some cloud-related practices. We found that common optimization opportunities and best practices were not followed, such as cost, reliability, security, operational excellence, and performance. As this was an important area for us when working in the cloud with a huge potential for some meaningful improvements, the SRE team rose to the challenge and our cloud computing standards were born. They were adopted with surprising ease by our squads. Based off the AWS well-architected framework, we focus on 5 key pillars. Security, using a system we have called BT Sentinel to discover and automate resolution methods for security issues. Cost optimization, highlight opportunities to reduce our current cost in the cloud. Reliability, looking at the reducing production disruptions and being able to recover from failure quickly. Performance, with a constant monitoring of compute, memory, and a lot of other factors, making recommendations to improve performance. Operational excellence. We will be applying guidance for the implementation of the best practices for the design, delivery, and maintenance of AWS environments in the BT consumer. We took each pillar in turn and developed a standard for them. The emphasis on each standard is on an automated resolution for AWS configurations which do not comply to these standards. For each standards we developed a discovery method and a resolution method. A discovery method is what discovers the resources or configurations that do not comply with the standards, and a resolution method is what resolves the issue and can be automated remediation or resolution. In some cases, a notification to SRE team is required for further investigation before remediation as a precaution against breaking anything. For example, our SRE security standard disable access if creds are not used for 90 days. We have a discovery method that picks up when access creds have reached that 90-day period for us, we get a Slack notification. The resolution method that automatically resolves after this amount of days of notifying the SRE team and user involved and no action is taken. The result, an automated solution that works to keep our AWS accounts as secure as possible. As mentioned earlier, this is what we have developed to solve a problem that we have at BT. But as part of the eventual growth of the team, we wanted to ensure that we look at the traditional SRE model devised by Google and build on top of those key concepts too. Over to you, Anand.
Yep. Thanks, Amreen. Yeah, you're absolutely right. All these traditional SRE activities overlaps quite nicely to our approach towards the SRE foundations and principles as well. And with this, I'll go through the challenges while implementing the SRE model in BT. As most of the guys has already mentioned about the challenges we have spoke so far, getting our hands or heads around the traditional SRE model and implemented it successfully in the digital environment or engineering was quite a difficult task. But as Graeme has already mentioned that as the team was not having any prior SRE knowledge or any experience, but though we had our communication along with the development team and other teams as well, we came up across all views and environments as well. And we have been going through all of our learnings and it came out to be a success. And along with this, we have been implementing over most of the SRE standard and community as well. It is worth bearing in mind that when we talk about traditional SRE model, we are mostly referring to the Google SRE book and the traditional best practices. With this, we came up with a solution related to the SRE maturity report. As Pauline mentioned earlier, how we went through some of the serious team reflections with our SRE maturity reports. As a part of exercise, we identified few of the key traditional SRE activities. That is, the development of SLOs, SLIs, implementing a blameless culture with blameless postmortems, a focus on chaos engineering to build resilient systems, involvement in production incident management as well, automation at heart, leadership buy-in. We took some of these key concepts in turn and created activities for each of them. These activities are now part of our SRE roadmap, which will be continuing in the next 12 months. We're also working along with operations and development teams as well as regularly reviewing with management to bring to life some of these activities. A piece of that work which we have already been looking into and the result example of this has been introduction to chaos engineering in our BT environments and unleashing the chaos monkey. As Wayne has already highlighted earlier, this is important to ensure that our platforms are more resilient. Not to mention it has been a fun to do it as well as the continue experimenting with chaos engineering in non-production and test environments. We are planning, actually, we are going forward to move into a production environment as well, where the actual fun begins. With this, I conclude and over to you, Pauline.
And as you can see, how we've adapted SRE at BT is very, very different to how Google have described SRE. We believe that Google's SRE shouldn't be prescriptive set of rules, but rather guidelines to follow. We hope that we've managed to demonstrate that well during our talk. Before we conclude today's talk, I just wanted to go through some of the SRE team's wins over the past few months. Like I said, our SRE team has had a massive positive impact in engineering. For example, since we began, we've saved money in our cloud accounts. We're driving security in our cloud accounts. So security is now at the forefront of everything that we do. We've massively improved our approach towards security. We're working better with developers and operations and bringing everyone closer together. This just promotes that more innovative and collaborative culture that we all need to be truly successful in a large enterprise. We've also brought visibility of production to developers, so we're no longer just chucking like code over the wall and hoping for a new feature to be live on our website. It's all we're working towards improving that relationship with developers so that they are more understanding of what actually goes on in production once their code is out there. We've also brought resiliency at the forefront of our systems. So now we plan for reliability, we focus on reliability, which is super important. And we've used our SRE principles and standards to influence positive change within our area in consumer. But increasingly, we're starting to see how valuable what we're doing can be spread across the rest of the BT business. And that is super exciting. So just to summarize some of our key points, leadership buy-in and support is vital for success. Remember to take the time to plan and organize yourselves, and honest self-audit is always the way to go. So like we mentioned earlier with the SRE maturity report, it's super important that you look at what you do, look at what you're trying to achieve, and look at the problems that you're trying to solve. Most likely, the problems that you're trying to solve using SRE principles is not identical to Google's problems. So make sure that you're absolutely crystal clear on that. And then use the SRE principles from the traditional SRE model, as well as your own SRE principles and values to solve the problems. As we discussed earlier, we have our SRE cloud standards, which has helped propel us in the right direction in taking control of our cloud accounts, as well as improving that DevOps culture within such a large enterprise. And finally, building an SRE team from scratch is a challenge. At the start of the talk, we asked ourselves, how do you go from nothing at all to an effective and useful SRE team for a company with over 100,000 employees and millions of customers? And the answer is, we don't actually have it all figured out yet, but our fail fast and our continuous improvement mindset embedded in our team has helped build upon our effectiveness and value that we bring to BT. And we're only just getting started. So we're really excited to see what comes out of it. And you could also say from a personal standpoint that because of these SRE principles that we've embedded in our engineering culture, you know, the focus on building resilience, we've actually passed that on into the team as well. So we all accept that we don't know everything yet. We're going to get things wrong. We're going to be frustrated with how things are going. But together, over the past few months, especially on top of COVID as well, we've become a better and more resilient team in the process. And that's something that we should all be really proud about. And it is always a positive thing when we come out as a better version of ourselves. So we hope that you enjoyed our talk today. Good luck on your journey, fellow SREs, and thank you again for having us.